Ladies and gentlemen, I'll 2 minutes late. I'm going to call the special workshop of the Destin City Council, July 14th, 2022, to order. If you all join me, we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, sorry about that. Does anyone have anything they'd like to come up here and make comments on? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. Just remind everybody is there's another opportunity when this workshop is at its end to make public comment. Crystal, take it away.
Good evening, council members and public. Welcome to the third budget workshop. We're going to just review the whole picture again this evening. And I look forward to hearing your comments and the discussion that's going to come along with this. So here we are. This is a recap of the budget process. So this is the July 14th budget workshop. Next up on the first council meeting in August 1st, that's where we need to set our tentative millage rate. And then after that, we'll be publishing a tentative proposed budget and advertising in the newspapers, certifying our millage rate to the property appraiser, and then adopting our millage rate and our budget for 2023 in September. So here's just another timeline picture of where we are in the process. The red marker says we are here, middle of July. And we have in here, just for your, to have them handy, just a little review of our strategic planning and our visioning sessions and the types of priorities that we have when it comes to budgeting, especially capital projects, council objectives, just a little reminder, strategic goals, and updates since the last budget workshop that we had. So in your packets for this meeting, you should have received the summarized and detailed budget projections. So this shows everything from the operating all the way down to the capital projects in here. Then we have another item in your packet, which is all of the capital improvement projects that are proposed. We've got a summary on the front page and the back pages. It shows how we ranked the projects and how we put the funding into future years. Along this side, we also have the funding sources. So some of these projects, for example, the beach acquisition, you would notice that it has multiple different funding sources. We're using a bit of Okaloosa Halfpenny. We're using some tourist development revenues, and also potentially an advanced funding agreement with the TDC. That'll be presented at a meeting coming soon. So you have all of these details in your packets. Some of the updates that went into these final numbers here, or these proposed numbers here, our insurance. Originally, at the previous workshop, we had it in there at a 7% increase. Talking to our benefits brokers, it looks like it could be potentially up to a 20% increase. We're continuing those discussions. We have some more bids coming in. Hopefully, we'll get it down somewhere between the 7 and 20%. I'm hoping for lower. But anyway, that was an increase of general fund expenditures of another $160,000, where we raised the insurance from $1.5 million up to $1.6 million. We also reviewed our new software as a service contract that we just signed at a recent council meeting for our servers, and we were able to decrease our investment into new network servers by about $117,000. And also we were able to allocate more of that to the technology fund, which is a percentage of permit revenues that goes to support all of the building department files that are saved in there. So we did that. The event center feasibility study, we took it out of the capital projects and we put that $75,000 up into council contingency. So in the operating budget, council contingency now stands at $95,000. The stormwater management position. So we'd like to do a pilot test this coming year on stormwater management. We're distributing some of those position duties out to existing staff members in the engineering and public works departments. You might recall at the first operating budget workshop, we requested to add one more public works person and one more engineering assistant person, and so hopefully they would share some of those duties as well. So we got rid of that position. We're not funding it for next year because we're going to test having those duties covered by other people that are already in the budget. Next, we have one of the biggest changes in this version of the budget compared to the previous workshop is this new interlocal agreement with the TDC has come out regarding purchases of beach parcels and park development on the beaches. So this is using the dollars that we collect from the tourists to invest that into expanding beach access and beach parks. But the bottom line, those are capital expenses and those funds would come from outside. The bottom line was we were able to decrease the usage of fund balance from $184,000 down to about $105,000. So now let's go on to some of the details from the operating budget. As I mentioned at the last meeting, our ad valorem taxable property values have increased very nicely. So we're looking at a 12.2% increase in ad valorem that we would collect on the properties for the general fund. A 24% increase in the town center CRA and a 15% increase in the harbor CRA. So just to put that into perspective, if we readopt our millage rate of 1.615 mils, that would be 12.2% greater than the rolled back rate of 1.43 mils. And this is just a reminder to our citizens and our council members that there is the Save Our Homes Act, which if your home has the homestead exemption upon it, then the property appraiser cannot increase the taxable value of your property more than 3% per year. That's the cap. So here we are at the general fund revenues. Oh my goodness. Not right. Yeah, we'll get to that one in a second and how it affects our personnel budgeting. So the taxes includes ad valorem, the CST, which is the telecommunications tax, BTRs and gas tax 1. The telecommunications tax has been on a downward trend for a number of years. And it continues a little bit downward. So the net change we're looking at is 10% increase in our tax revenues. Licenses and permits, you just never know how the building permitting process is going to go from year to year, how much redevelopment is going to happen. So I tend to estimate very conservatively for licenses and permits. Intergovernmental revenues, that includes things that come from the state municipal revenue sharing tax, the state sales tax, and it also includes grants. So we're looking at a 4% increase there. Charges for services, we're reviewing our schedules now and we hope to adjust some of those, but that one's hard to predict as well. The biggest factor in this change of it going down for the general fund is we took the parking revenues, the parking fees, out of the general fund, and we moved it down and committed it to other items. So that's the main reason for the reduction in charges for services. And then we have other revenues, which are just, they vary from year to year. Administrative fees, liens being paid off, things like that, they're hard to predict. So here's what it looks like on the big picture. With our tax revenues being 62% of the revenues coming into the city. Charges for services are at about 2%. That would include fees that people pay to use the community center, to join in different programs there. And just a reminder about some of the changes we've done regarding general fund revenues. Over the past year, the parking fees are now in their own committed fund called the parking fund. Building permit fees have been taken out of the general fund, and they now cover a special fund that the state of Florida requested us to create, and that's for enforcement of building code. So the building permit fees cover that now. And then we have that new 2% electric franchise fee, which is not in the general fund. It's down below in a restricted fund, and we've committed to use that towards undergrounding. Go ahead.
Mike, Rodney.
Yeah, on the chart that was back a page or two before, the 18% for the intergov, the 3.2, there you go. Couple, what would that be? Just a couple ideas.
Sorry, now it's my turn. The state's half-cent sales tax, and it also includes certain operating grants that come to us. For example, DOT gives us some money to help us with median maintenance and also the traffic and street lighting. So here's an overview of our general fund operating expenses. The biggest one is that personnel costs are projected to be about 37% higher in fiscal year 2023 due to the change created by the compensation studies. Plus, we are assuming that we're going to fill the 25 vacancies that we have. And these are really big, important positions like the IT director, the code compliance director, an engineer, city engineer, positions that have gone mostly unfilled. And then we have a lot of other lower level positions that haven't been filled. We've had a hard time recruiting.
Is that, did you add the anticipated increase in medical insurance too?
That's correct. Here's how it breaks down. So this first slide breaks down by major category: public safety, physical environment, which is stormwater and cemetery, transportation, which is about our roads, sidewalks, public things that Public Works Department does, and so forth. And then this next one is the same figures, but it's broken out by salaries, benefits, contracts, operations, and other, so that you can see where the big changes are coming from. And this is where you'll see that the salaries, our projection shows they could be 30%, 37% higher than was budgeted this year. Benefits up to 48%. In the benefits, so we have the insurance that's increasing, but as some of you might know, we as a local government in the state of Florida, we're not required to participate in Social Security. Instead, we participate in a thrift plan. It's a defined benefit, or it's anyway, we put 7.5% of our people's salaries into this thrift plan, and then they get what they get out of the end of it. We're trying to encourage more participation, so I'm hoping that I can convince another 50% of the people who are not participating. I'm trying to get them to start participating now that we gave them the increase in wages.
How many people are participating in the program right at the moment?
So we have,
percentage-wise?
Right, so we have approximately 100 people on staff right now that are eligible to participate, and it's close to 40 that are participating. So that other 60%, I'm trying to get them, yeah, at least half of them to come in.
Do we think that Bobby's trying to get on?
He said I can't hear.
Okay.
We'll give him a second to try to figure that out. Is that what Lance doing now? Okay.
Ray, do you have extra batteries?
Crystal, just out of curiosity, how are we encouraging those employees who are not participating?
Well, we started by bringing in our thrift plan administrators from Benjamin Edwards and having them talk to all the employees at an employee meeting about what they're missing out on by not fully participating. And we're going to continue with these efforts of educating the staff that we have. I'm happy to say that I had one report back since we implemented the compensation study results in April. One of our employees who's been here for 17 years said that she's never been able to hold only one position with the city of Destin. It wasn't covering all of her bills. So now that we did that, she was able to let go of her second job.
4.5% that we put in, that we only put that in if they participate, if they don't?
No, we put in the 7.5%, but as a defined contribution plan, it's not an annuity like Social Security would be, basically. So we try to encourage our people to put in an additional 5%, and then we'll match that. So it brings it up to 12% that the city is putting in. They get their 7.5.
But to make it really work, having them contribute back into it makes it really work.
Right, it makes it work a lot better.
Some folks, I'm sure, are down to the penny and just can't afford to do it, right? I mean, especially our lower wage earners. Is that one of the struggles?
That's correct. Oh, okay.
Is there a vesting issue, or I'm just trying to think why they, I mean, even $10 a pay period gets you something
Right.
more. You know, okay.
He-
You got $260 you didn't have.
Right. Yes, go ahead, next. Not sure this isn't working anymore. So on the next slide, we have, it's just a visual breakdown of our projected expenditures. And this compares the FY23 versus the FY22. So you can see that they're staying pretty even, with salaries and benefits being by far, you can see last year it was about 50% of our budget, and this coming next year, looks like it might be a little bit more than 50% of our general fund expenditures. I wish this, this is kind of working. So this is last year, salaries and benefits. You can see it was about half. And then this is next year, salaries and benefits. So you can see how it's growing on us. Operations, contracts is where we're trying to, if we could be fully staffed and have all those positions covered, then we don't have to use as many contracted services. That's our goal.
So the increase will be compensated by a decrease in the other arena that we're having to play ball in now?
Right, that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're working towards. Oh, hey, look, it worked, or was that you? I don't know. It's quirky. Okay. So here's just a little recap from our first budget workshop. So you can see we have 99 full-time personnel and 29 part-timers. We have proposed on our list 4 Part-times, I should have updated this. I requested one part-time finance intern in the summer, so that would be about $6,000 a year, just for that 16 weeks to get the college credit. Our HR director said it has to be paid, so I put them in at the minimum wage, our new established minimum wage. The PIO would also like a part-time intern for the same amount. And then we have those 4 full-time wish list positions. One in engineering, one in stormwater, one in facilities, and one in parks. And they're mostly maintenance techs, except for the engineer would be an engineering assistant. So those new positions, we're looking at the cost would be about $160,000 a year to bring them on, plus about $97,000, our guess at the benefits. Some of the benefits, like health insurance are a set amount depending on if you choose family coverage or your own, just coverage for yourself. Other benefits are based on your salary levels, so. Sure. Let's pause here.
Yeah, this is one of the things we need to, and we're not going to decide tonight, but we kind of need to give the guidance. Lance and I were doing his mid-year review before this, and this is the one thing I asked him, what do you need? Because, and we have to do some data, you're going to have to tell us how much of an increase did everybody get? Okay, because we had some people get a 10% increase. We had some people may have gotten a 25% increase just because of the compensation study.
That's correct.
So they don't get 8.93 on top of 25%. That just doesn't pass the, if it had been last September or last August, oh, well, we've gone almost a full year, but we haven't. We've gone less than half a year after they got. So, but we have to feel, and I'll just, to kind of start this, to feel where everybody is, or to give the staff some guidance or where we are, because we're probably in 5 different places. I'm okay with the 2% merit, because people that, and Lance sharing that other places have gotten rid of merit increases, I don't think we can decrease it or something, but the staff knows who's doing the work, and if they see everybody getting rewarded the same, that depresses the good people's performance. Doesn't improve the bad, not any of them are bad, but it doesn't increase the underperformers, it just decreases the overperformers. I also personally would like to see a bifurcated system, because the managers didn't get a raise. None of them, because, and the justification was most of them were new, they hadn't been here that long, they were hired at salaries that they all agreed to, so they were on board. And I don't want to replay that whole evening, but okay, I got that. But now, you didn't get a raise last year. Not just you, but the management team. They should get a raise. They should get a bigger COLA than the people who already got somewhere between 10 and 25% or whatever they got. So, and I don't know what that number, I wrote down 3% for COLA for the managers and 1%, and I didn't have anything for the staff until the 9.1% came out the other day. I was like, dang, we got to give them something, yeah, that number's going to go back down eventually, but rents were a big part of that thing, and rents aren't going to go down. Usually you sign a 12-month lease or whatever. So probably a COLA. I'm comfortable with a small COLA for the people who got the big raise. I want to know what those raises were. I want to know what the smallest one was on the people that got raises, and I want to know percentage-wise. Don't come back and tell me so-and-so got a $4 raise. Okay, well, if they were making $30 an hour, $4 raise, is 7% or whatever it is. 14%, anyway, yeah. Don't do math in public. Thanks, Dewey, I appreciate that.
Crystal, on that line of thought, though, how was your approach towards this? Especially this sheet that's causing Jim to raise these concerns. What was your approach so we can have that discussion?
Yeah, no, so the compensation study, all of those salary levels were, that research was done last fall, and then it was crunched down, and then we tried to apply it to the city of Destin and people like us. And then we looked at how long people had been here and where they should be in terms of their, have they had really, positive reviews all their life, or, were they a little bit lower? And we tried to bring all of these things into balance to get everybody back on a more reasonable, to reduce compression, basically. So we felt like in August, when we implemented that, we finally got people to where they should have been, probably at the start of the year, and everybody was spread out. So part of the reason we might have gotten there is because, we have this policy that we're supposed to increase salaries. The cost of living is based on the CPI. Maybe it shouldn't be the full CPI, because we also have the merit increase. There should probably be some discussion around that, but there should be something. And like you said, I think I have the numbers from it's not working again. You're right. So year over year, March, the increase was 8.54%. So that was what I put in here for budgetary reasons to start our discussion. Oh, here it is. April, it was about 8.5%, or May, March 8.54, April 8.26, May 8.58, June, as you heard on the news, it's 9.01. That came out after I'd published this, or I would have updated this as well. So I agree. I think there's some discussion there. Also, you have to take into account, we, as a city, we pay for 2/3 of family benefits. What in the for-profit world, in some cases, they've given maybe a little bit more on the COLA, but then they've also taken on the other end where they say, okay, we're not going to pay for 2/3 of your family benefits anymore. If you want your family on the plan, now you have to chip in a little bit more than 33%, right? So we have all of these. I don't think the city wants to go that direction in particular, but,
Well,
I
that's
agree.
why-
I think you all
that's-
need to have this
I tried to
discussion
set
on.
the table by
Yep.
asking her that question, because you brought up some really good issues. So I just wanted to see, so we all could hear how she came up with this sheet. So go ahead, Jim, and then Rodney, I got you next.
Oh, and I understand all that. I would say, I'm not willing to address, because we pay for our staff members' benefits, health benefits and vision, other things. But we don't pay anything for their families. Now, if they want, we provide them the opportunity, but they pay all of that. I don't want to have that discussion this year, and I really don't want to have that discussion next year, because we're going to do a staff survey in 2 years. And one of the things we need to ask on the staff survey is, do you want to consider going into Social Security? Do you want to consider getting paid a lot more, but then your family uses health benefits or loses, some health benefit coverage that you would have to pay for on your own? And ask them. But we don't need to have that conversation right now. We hadn't even gotten our citizen survey rolled out yet, and we need to ask them. But we have to have some kind of balance. And my understanding from the compensation study was, they crunched the numbers, but then they, trying to think what the proper word is, they elevated those numbers slightly to, it wasn't cut off in August, or it wasn't cut off in September when we started doing the compensation study, but they didn't finish the compensation study till December or so. So, I assume in January, we were at the top of the heap. We would, with the report that they did, January or February, we were at 100% on our compensation if we adopted the plan, and we did. So what do we owe them from, and we're giving, like you said,
Right.
we're giving them a 2%, up to 2% merit. And I do agree we should give those folks that already got these increases a little bit of COLA, but I'm more focused on the management team.
Right.
I'll just be honest on the person. We're already spending more than 50% of our expenditures on payroll and benefits. So, there's not a whole lot more blood that we can squeeze out of that turn up.
Right. And also recall that the plan that we chose was, if you were near the midpoint, we did not increase you above the new midpoint on our salary plan. So we have a number of people who were at or near the midpoint, so they didn't get, that compensation plan was really addressing the bottom 60% of our staff, not the top 40%.
That's why I want to know the smallest percentage.
I was just thinking along those same lines as, we gave the increase in pay, and the COLA increase and all that, which is great. I support 100%. But, and I say this with my guys, that is a great morale booster, but it's short-lived. Because when you got 14 full-timers and 11 part-timers, staff needs those people to take the workload off of them, because when they're working 10, 12 hours a day, some of them maybe even more, you know as well as I do, I don't care what you're getting paid, it ain't enough, when you work that. So I don't know what we're doing to try to fill these positions. I don't know if we need to do something else, or expand it, or change it up, or whatever, but I'd love to see those positions get filled, 'cause that's a lot of positions to, to take the workload off our staff, and I think that's going to help in the long run as well, not only just an increase in, COLA. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's not to make any excuses, but every single segment of our society is facing issues with workforce. And Destin and parts of Walton County are subject to that, because we are kind of like on the island. We only have so many people that live here. Probably a good portion of our populations here, they're done working. And so it does create a big issue. And a lot of these positions that we need on our city are highly competitive slots. So, I know that they all wish they could fill the positions as well. I don't know what more we can do. Maybe that's something we can have further discussion at a later date. Dewey?
Thank you, Mayor. Hate to be a contrarian, but
No, you don't.
I know you believe that, right? And I supported the increases in the salaries, as you all know. But running the math here, we're up 37% on our compensation package, which is very close to 40%. And we're going to hire 25 new positions, and we have 100, so that's 25% rough math. That's not really sustainable if we keep doing that. We are, and I understand the philosophy is to move away from contracting and toward full-time employees, which is generally the opposite way you go if you want to actually meet a budget. Contractors are generally cheaper. If they don't do the job, it's a lot easier to get rid of a contractor than it is an employee. And if we're moving away from contractors, that's contrary to what the philosophy has been in the past. So I've got a number of questions. And of course, then there's the budget shortfalls that are quite apparent that we're going to have here shortly. We need 12 million or more to pave the streets and resurface them. The county wants to take away $400,000 of our maintenance on the parks, and the list goes on and on. So something's going to have to give. And we've made a good step toward making sure our employees are compensated. And I understand exactly what you're saying about the health insurance. I would never go without it, nor would I ever walk away from that 7.5% that the city was going to put into retirement for me if I put.
Yeah.
But at some point, as you can see, the pie gets bigger and bigger on our employees. The numbers don't work anymore. And we need to be very conscious of that. We're Crosstown Connector, if I understood the man right at the last meeting, goes from 4.5 million to 9 million. How in the world do we make up that? But somewhere we have to. And we can't do it if we continue to blow more and more and more on personnel. And so, this is a dilemma we're going to have to come up with a solution to. The numbers just don't work.
What about, if you're going to go down that route, Mr. Destin, as far as, would you pick and choose what positions we ought to be contract focused? Or see what's worked for us in the past and continue down that route? What do you
I
have,
would.
what do you have in mind for that?
I would have a combination of that and recommendations from the staff, because they know what positions they absolutely need to hire. And I would always look to them for, if we're not gonna hire 25, give me your top 10. And then maybe next year, if things go well, then we can get another bite of the apple. But contracting, is just a much cheaper way to go.
Do you think that probably at our next meeting, we could probably give the staff some guidance, or even through this workshop, for their senior leadership to get together and kind of start compiling that list for the consideration as the council goes through this budgetary process on into this following year too, in the 24 year?
And I hope that's what we're doing tonight. Of course, it will be not solidified until we actually can vote on something. Sure. But, I can see that the numbers don't work out after just a little while of continuing on our present course, unless we just want to have personnel here and not do anything.
Lonnie, you wanted something to say right there? Kevin, I got you.
Krista, how many of the, would you say the 25 positions that are already budgeted for?
Oh, no, they're all budgeted, and that they're all included in that budget. So this budget, which is 37% higher than the 2022, it assumes that we would have all of those positions filled, and that we would also have those 4 new positions filled as well.
So we were budgeting these positions last year?
Yes,
And the year before
the 14 and the 11, so the 25 positions, the 25 vacancies that we have, most of those positions have been open for over a year. Part of it was because nobody wanted to work for $10 an hour. But now that we address that through the compensation study, changing our salary plan ranges, we were hoping that with the new salary plan, that people would be more enticed and come in and fill those. So they've been budgeted, they just have been sitting vacant.
So is it safe to say we wouldn't have to go out and pull money from somewhere else out of the budget to cover these positions because they've already been covered?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's funny, I love that you're talking about this. Personnel budgeting is one of the most difficult processes of any type of budgeting for any municipality, because we have to assume that we will fill all of our positions and that people will stay all year. We have to assume that those vacant positions, they might have families, so I have to assume that it might be a $20,000 a year bill for health insurance versus a or a $2,000 bill, right? So when you budget for personnel, you can just assume that you're not going to spend it at 100%, but you have to assume for the worst, people will take advantage of all the benefits and that you'll be fully staffed the whole year.
So that changes a little bit of what Mr. Destin was bringing up to a certain extent?
I would say it changes nothing at all. Because the fact that you budgeted in, accounting is little shells we have money under. If all the money's under this shell, there's no money over here to do all the things I was talking about. And that's just a short list. So to say, well, we plan to have all the money under this shell over here, does not fix that there's no money on this shell over here. So the only way to fix that is take some of the money out, put it over in this shell. And the only way you do that is, and you budgeting, you do have to take it for granted that you're going to have 100%, but you have 100% of a smaller number. And that releases money to go over to the other shell.
Mr. Schmidt?
Appreciate it. I was just going to reiterate the 25 positions as well. And I do understand what Mr. Dustin's saying, so maybe another way to also think of it, we have been overworked, staff has been overworked, so rather than looking at 25 positions, maybe the discussion as well needs to be happening with staff, not just about contractors, is of those 25 positions, how many can we get rid of? Not even for contractors, not saying just to poof, they disappear, but just part of the discussion. But I also wanted to make sure I'm understanding Mr. Bagby, his questions and comments on this slide and concerns, so I can make sure I'm adding to the discussion. But it's because you are budgeting 8.54 cost of living increase, correct? Okay. So, you know, I mean, one of the critical number one priority is our wages and everything like that. So, I mean, I don't want to look at trying to reduce funds anywhere for our wages that we have 25 positions that haven't been filled for over a year. We have people that quit and go somewhere else in high positions because they're not getting paid enough. So, I mean, me personally, any discussion about giving less money than what we're planning on is not the way I want to go. We did a compensation study and we gave them a raise 6 months ago or 3 months ago or however long ago it was. And that was to get them to a level comparable with other counties, cities, municipalities, whatever. Well, maybe it's still not enough to actively recruit the right people, to keep the right people. And so if cost of living and CPIs continues to go up, I mean, just because we gave them a raise 4 months ago to get them into a comparable level, and yeah, the managers need to be compensated too, but, you know, it's our number one priority in our city, apparently. We shouldn't be trying to talk about how to reduce it. So I like it how we have it presented, and I want to keep it going that way.
Before I go to Mr. Bagby, Lance, on this line of discussion, I mean, you're the boss of all this. You have your finger and pulse on the true needs of the city. Would you like to add any comments about this particular issue, about what maybe your leadership staff and yourself would consider as far as contracting concerns, or, you know, taking a different look at the true needs of your staffing and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing that I think we should definitely consider as stewards of the tax dollars is, I mean, would I like to give a 9.1% cost of living increase to our staff? Absolutely, I would like to do that, but I don't in any way, shape, or form think that's sustainable nor the right thing to do for Destin in the current situation we're in. I mean, I think we need to get to a percentage that helps them survive here. I want them to be able to survive and live here. So I can tell you that I've met with my counterparts yesterday from the other cities, and for average COLA and merit combined they're coming in around the 5% mark. So that's combined number. So that's something we could think about. Number one, that we could shave some money off the top while still maintaining good salaries is bringing that number to a more reasonable number. I know that the staff would love to have more, but I mean, the bank is the bank, and the savings account only has so much in it. I mean, we have to manage that. That's important. Then, as far as the actual vacancies go, majority of the part-time vacancies, I believe, are in rec. So, I mean, we would just need to make decisions based on what programs we want to continue. A lot of those part-time positions that are vacant right now, because they are the lowest paying jobs we probably have, those are also the folks that maintain a staff to usually kid participant ratio that, I mean, without that, we have to meet a certain standard or we shouldn't be running those programs. As a parent, like all of us here, I mean, we want our kids to be safe, so I mean, we have to make some decisions like that too. Maintenance-wise, same thing. We can look at it, and that's definitely one where we could, if we wanted to, look at contracting out for maintenance. I mean, we have just as good a chance probably to get contracted maintenance out there as we do hiring within the house. So I think we still have some options. And Crystal, honestly, she has some ideas already. I mean, she knows that there's a good chance that we're going to have to find some money somewhere to, I mean, we're going to present you a balanced budget in one way or another. And she's got some areas where, some additional areas where she's already looked at where we could look at thinning things down a little bit without sacrificing a lot of quality. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of points. The budget that you've got before us now was developed with the 8.54% cost of living. So if we said the people who got no raises in March or April or whenever they got them, could get a 2%, up to 2% merit and a 3% COLA, which would be the 5%. And the people who did get raises get up to a 2% merit and 1% COLA. That would bring that 8.54, and I don't know how weighted the people who didn't get any raises versus the people who did get raises, but I would think it would bring it down to 4% or probably less than 4%, because the vast majority of the people got raises in the thing. So that's a 4.5% savings there. I'm not opposed to contracting, but you don't normally contract positions, you contract functions. So if we want the landscaping, or we want the parks maintenance, or we want, then we put out a bid for that. But particularly part-time, I don't think you're going to be able to contract out. Maybe you can. You can get kids, school kids, summer jobs. I would assume most of those, if they're children's programs, they're summer and weekend or nighttime jobs. Like I said, I'm not opposed to contracting, but I would ask the staff, what functions do you want to contract out as opposed to what positions? Because I'm having to contract out one of my security positions, and it's costing me a lot more than my guy that's there full time. Why? They're paying the kid basically what I'm paying my guy, and then they charge me, and they got to make their money, because I could end that contract in 6 months, and so they're charging me $25 an hour. They're paying him $17 an hour, and I'm paying more or as much as I'm paying my person in salary, benefits, retirement, all that other stuff. So I would just ask that you look at that. I do think we can save on this. I just want to know how much we can save. And yeah, the staff ought to scrub these positions. Do we need all 25 positions? If we do we need all the positions, or is there a pocket we can contract out? If you think there is, bring that back to us. We'll work on an RFP, or y'all can work on an RFP, and we can save money. But I'm doubtful that we will do that before 1 October. Get that whole thing accomplished. And
Crystal's plate.
yeah, to answer one question that was here, as a guy who's done a lot of budgets, private sector, public sector, this is always, I don't want to use the word fluff. This is always your hidden reserve, because you never have 100% employment, who all choose 100% benefits, who all choose 100% retirement, so there's always a number. Now it can vary from 10% to 20%, depending on, but there's always that. I mean, if you look at what we budgeted and what we actually spent this year, it's over 10%, I think, of savings in our biggest line item, arguably our biggest line item. And so,
Could you even give us a approximate figure of where we've been in 2021, between 21 and 22? Exactly what you was talking about?
I would be careful, because our wages were so depressed. That
True.
number's probably going to be bigger than it should be.
But she has to, as a finance director, assume it's going to be 100% cost.
Right.
When
No,
she
she does, and I understand the budgeting process. And it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be this. And then at the end of the year, you look like a hero, because I just brought you back $1 million that I didn't spend because we didn't fill everything.
Crystal's been a hero.
One question, Mayor, before
Crystal's
we
been a
move on.
hero pretty much since she's come
One
to work
question
for
is
us.
related to Mr. Bagby's. Do we have anything in this budget budgeted for the increases that the management staff has not gotten? Is that planned for this year to address that issue?
So when I took this, I just took the salaries that we paid on a certain date in May, and I just applied the 8.5% across the board.
But that's more or less COLA or whatever.
COLA, right, and the 2% merit. So that's where your fluff is the 2% merit, because not everybody started on October 1. So that merit increase happens throughout the year. It's on your anniversary date. The benefits, the health insurance is the biggest one. I just came up with a hybrid average, looked at the average of all the humans that we have, and if they tended more towards single versus family, and I took a hybrid average there. I did not assume all 25 open positions would take on the full family. So I'm trying to decrease that fluff a bit, because this is, like you said, it's the taxpayers' dollars, where we're not here to tax them and then just hold it. We're here to tax them the right amount that we need for the coming year.
Okay, so I guess I didn't state the question right.
Or maybe I didn't
Okay,
listen
is that
correctly.
fluff that you just spoke of, is that what we're going to use to pay the compensation that we anticipate we're going to give increase to our management people, because they got nothing last year?
That's correct. The management got nothing this year, and so the 8.5%, it was applied uniformly for all the positions. It didn't bifurcate, separate out different sections.
Can you tell me what that amount might be?
Not off the top of my head. It's a very
Well,
complex.
that'll be instrumental to making a decision. So I look forward to it.
Well, we don't have to make
Hey.
any tonight, so that
Yeah,
helps.
well,
Lance wants to weigh in, so,
Lance is,
are you done, Mr. Dess? Go ahead,
let's
Lance.
say he doesn't want to raise, he wants to spread it out to his team, that's what I.
It's good. I'm blessed. I just wanted to mention one more thing that I didn't mention earlier, and that's the low-hanging fruit is the 4 wish list positions that are currently on the board, which total up to $250,000, basically, give or take. So those are on the board. What I would ask that council would let me do, instead of just taking the black market and eliminating those 4 positions, is go back to each department head and say, is this wish list position more important than another position that you currently have that's vacant? And work that way, and to come up with a number that balances us out, so.
All right.
and I will just say as we close this out, most of the open positions are related to maintenance and landscaping, and I do watch those teams, from my cozy corner, sunshiny office, right? And I do see people having to scramble from other departments to come in and fill in to make sure that, all those parks, that the trash is collected and that the toilets are still running, and, and those types of things, because we don't currently have enough people to really monitor everything from dawn till dusk, 7 days a week, rain or shine, and have anybody sick or take a vacation or anything else. I do see that they've been consistently, shorthanded.
Yeah, and those are the things that the general public sees, and that's what we hear about when that stuff's not done. I mean, in deference to Mr. Braden, one of the things that you've been harping on for the last 2.5 years is the medians, and having that done, now we're contracting that out and stuff like that. But it's the things people see or hear or smell is they're the ones that are calling. So, sometimes you're talking about your planners and your inspectors, and those are all key positions, but sometimes it's some of our lower economic positions that make the biggest impact to the general person who resides in Destin. It's how the streets look, and if you're riding your bike on the sidewalk and the bushes are hitting you in the head as you ride your bike, first thing you do is you call Michael, and he's got to get somebody out there to fix the tree. In fact, Michael, I got a complaint about that tree on Beach going towards the Joe's Bio boat ramp. Some of the guys with their T-tops are hitting that low-hanging tree right there by the Happy Store. So go check that one out. But it's things like that people notice and see the most. So, Crystal, you good? Is it done? Or you still got to go?
No, we got a little more.
I like,
All right, you got the floor.
So here's where I really like to be. I like to be at the bottom line. So the general fund available for investment in capital assets, if we have that 1.615 millage rate, the net increase to the fund balance before putting anything towards any capital projects is 1.6 million. And this still, on this slide, I'm showing you the effect on our fund balance. This is before we put any money into the capital projects. So, yes, I did have to, the committed reserves, if we do sign this interlocal agreement where we would have this beach project number 2, that we would share 50-50 with the county, they would bring 50% of the money, and we would commit 50% of some of our future tourist tax money. That is like it's a 10-year debt agreement essentially, and our reserve policy is that we have 1 year's worth of debt service on hand, so that's why our committed reserves would increase $1 million over what I showed at the previous meeting. So this is what it would look like if we do go into that advanced funding agreement with the county, with the TDC for a second beach project. So bottom line is you still would have an unassigned balance of 13 million. And so this is what we're looking at spending that 1.6 million on. We have an annexation study. I talked to Louis again today, and he is working on the policy on bringing in the enclaves, and they're looking into the law on how to do that. Hurricane response we have in here at $100,000, that we have agreements that council has already approved for emergency debris removal. This would just allow us, without calling a council meeting during a hurricane or immediately after a hurricane, to make sure that they're mobilized and they do the cleanup. That's usually reimbursed about 75% by FEMA. Network infrastructure, infrastructure servers, that keeps the whole city rolling like we like to do, and it's critical software. We're looking at updating our asset management software, and our civic clerk that you use for all of your committee and council meetings needs to be upgraded. We still have a city marina feasibility study in here, which that might be something you might want to put off to a future year. Maybe you don't want to spend or commit this in budget for 2023. The pickleball courts, the last estimate we received was about $400,000, although now I'm kind of thinking that's probably low, but we're hoping for some grant funding and others to chip in to help us through that. The Clement Taylor Park renovation, $35,000, that's our matching component for this award, and they will release the award to us of $729,000 to renovate Clement Taylor Park after we complete and close out the park down on the harbor. Next, we have the renewal and replacement program. We're proposing to put in about just over $1 million into that. So of the 1.6 million that's the net increase to our fund balance, here we're proposing to spend 1.7 million of that on capital projects. So this is another place that I recommend that you take a close look at and choose if you really want to accomplish these capital projects using general fund monies next year, or if you'd like to take one of those projects and move it out to a future year.
Crystal, a couple of those are just are they just one-time projects like the network server type deal? You
Yes.
might do it again 3 or 4 years from now, but that's just, it's not like most of these are not continuing beyond
That's
this
correct.
budget.
These are one-time capital investments.
Mr. Schmidt?
What's the process of going from last budget meeting to this budget meeting on this slide? For updating, I know you gave us the updates on the first or second slide, but
Yeah, the main.
why do things come off and get changed?
The main difference was we removed based on comments, we took out the
Multi-event center?
event center, the $75,000 for the event center.
So the comment was made by Lance about that particular item about 3 times, and Mr. Destin said we should keep it where it's at in the contingency. but it wasn't in the contingency, it was here.
In
So
the
why did we take it
FY,
off?
yeah, in the FY '22 budget, at an earlier council meeting, we moved it out of our FY '22 capital projects into council contingency, and then I had it back in capital projects for FY '23,
then it came
and
out
then I
there.
was told to put it,
Gotcha.
remove it, so, yeah. But again, it's, this is why we're here.
Right.
To discuss, do you want to try to accomplish that type of a feasibility study next year? Do you want to add something to the list, take something off of this list, move something from this list out to a future year?
Is today's meeting a time to go down this list and say, maybe we ought to just bump that one to the following year?
Yeah, this
that
is
what
the
you guys-
best.
Yeah, one thing I was going to continue talking about is like, for example, annexation of unincorporated enclaves is considered a desirable priority. At the very bottom of our list, but that stayed on here for $10,000. Our city marina, which definitely is a cool thing as well, it's, again, a desirable priority, but here we are at $75,000.
We don't have to spend.
Oh, I know, I'm just talking about the things that are and are not on here versus our council objectives. 1.2 is the research viability of multi-use convention center, which is above all of those things, yet it's not even on here. So it just doesn't align with council objectives in our capital budget, what we're gonna invest our capital improvement money on. It just doesn't align from what I see. Do we need to spend $75,000 to study if we can build a marina? I mean, I heard the talk on that at the last meeting, the people that were here. I don't necessarily think we need to spend the money to decide. We had discussions recently about something like that, and, why would we want to put $75,000 if the option, like, we all want to probably build a city marina, so why would we even want to pay $75,000 to go study about building a marina and the potential revenue that it'll generate? So I personally have issues with, if we don't want to do a study on a multi-event complex, then we can call it something else, I think. But, to come in alignment with our council objectives, I would like to see some things like with the multi-use center added back on here.
I just want to clarify, and I hope I'm interpreting this correctly, but the multi-use center is still a part of our strategic plan. It's still on there, and the money is still available to you to use it for that purpose if that's what council wants, because it is now in the contingency fund. And I think that's why it was moved
contingency
there.
funds used for?
Whatever, it's
Right.
council's contingency fund. So
But is it a multi-use event center contingency fund, or is it contingency fund? Correct, which could be used for anything the council wants, right?
In fact, you could move that 75,000 for the marina to the
contingency
contingency fund, which
Right.
still means we could do it.
And maybe
and
use it, because why align it?
Or we may want to use that 75,000 to build that baseball field the high school wants us to do, so.
Well,
You can
no,
move that
I-
over.
Whoa, let's backtrack that. The high school doesn't want us to build a stadium, so I think you're
I'm
incorrect
just,
on that.
I threw that one out there because it's a workshop.
And just keep in
More
mind.
misleading information that gets put out there.
And don't forget, you still have the option, you could just move it out to the 2024, because the capital improvement plan is a 5-year plan. So if you're just looking at the FY '22, $1.6 million that you have available to invest of general fund money into capital projects, you don't want to overspend, because right now we're spending $100,000 more, right? You could just delay it, put it off until next year.
I'd have one comment. With the exception of the 10,000 for annexation study, the rest of those are over the number that have to come back to the council for approval. Is that not correct?
Oh, absolutely. So we're just talking about adopting a budget right now. We're not going to
I understand.
run out and, everything over the procurement policy that
Yep.
we're about to renew and revise, anything over that amount, if it's, even if it's budgeted over a certain amount, it still has to come back for council approval
Right.
first.
And that's the point I make. I mean, which shell do we put it under? The other observation I would make is capital improvement, while that made up, almost 2/3 of this entire thing, that is a reoccurring unless that's going to fix everything that's broken in the city, which I don't think it will it?
No, these are just, this 1 million, this $1 million that we're putting in for next year. It has all of the details for exactly what they want to fix and renew and replace are listed in here. I like seeing this on my computer screen better where I can really blow it up. But just some of the examples here include, let's see, R&R. There's an HVAC replacement that needs done. Oh dear, I forgot to print column A, which tells the building. So there's a building that needs one of its HVAC units replaced. And there's a building that needs the interior walls painted. Yeah, there's,
But there will be
here in the
more.
annex, they need, about $100,000 is the estimate to bring the walls all the way up to the ceiling on the new cubicles that they built to cut down on the noise that'll help the planners, and then they need some more space for the inspectors and the planners that they need over here in the building. But all of the projects, there's a building that needs its roof replaced. It's a $15,000. I think that might be the EOC just because it's only $15,000.
Michael, was that a comprehensive
Oh, yeah,
wish
hurricane
list of
water
all
damage.
time? Even though, like Mr. Dess is bringing up, some of this stuff, there'll be other stuff that breaks down and needs replacement, but would this $1 million get us really up to speed? Probably things that haven't been done in years.
Well, it's a process. We can't, do it all in 1 year. That R&R budget is the supplement to the gas tax number 1 as well?
Correct. So this includes the $500,000 a year we receive from gas tax number 1 towards our, restriping, repaving, and also updating anywhere where there's breaks in the sidewalk. So it's sidewalks, streets, and lighting.
Yeah, and I understand that. The point I make is out of the 1.6 million capital budget, really only 600,000 or so is stuff that we can spend because this capital improvements, every year there's going to be something. And it's a maybe 5 to 10 year cycle and then you start over. So really there's only 600 and something there that we can really call true capital, although that is capital investment. So it's not nearly as much money as we think it is.
Well, we're waiting on the results from the Matrix group that's going around and doing all of the facility studies. So the funding shown here for renewal and replacement is actually, is actual items that need to be replaced. And then when we get the study back, we'll do a longer term look at how we need to keep that fund funded on an annual basis. What's the minimum we need to be putting into that fund to ensure that we're able to replace the community center roof when it needs replacing and those types of things. So there'll be a funding component where it's a transfer into the fund, but then there'll be a separate, each year you're actually going to adopt only amount of the actual repairs and replacements, not repairs, replacements that need to take place. Well, each year, you have like 7 HVAC units in this building, and if you are to put them on a schedule, you're going to replace 1 HVAC unit per year, and then you come back and then you replace the next one. So they are annual expenses, but it's a capital expense. It's keeping our facilities up to date, or in the case of the roads, keeping our roads, our infrastructure to where it's supposed to be.
Ms. Schmidt?
Thank you, and I don't want to get ahead of Crystal, but I also don't want to run out of time or anything. The colorful chart in the very back that we were referencing a minute ago, and I think you just said that column A is missing, which probably answers a lot of my questions about some of these things, so.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Fiscal year '23, the orange column, everything that has under RR general is made up from that 1.05 approximately? Does that tie back to that $1 million number?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, is this
No, actually, it's both. So we're actually, the renewal and replacement program for next year, we're looking at, it's approximately, oh goodness, it's about $2.3 million in total.
Okay, sorry,
But
so it's
we
more
were-
than a one.
Yeah, we're recommending that we add 1 million of general fund money into that fund to accomplish this $2.3 million
So if I have
worth of
questions on some of these
projects.
things, do you want me to ask some of these right now?
Sure.
Or are these our one-on-one discussions?
That's your
Right.
choice.
So, like, for example, when I see rubberized track replacement, I can only assume we only have one track in the city,
That's
and
correct.
it's owned by the school district, right?
No, that's the one here at Morgan's. It's not rubberized right now, it's asphalt, but that's,
We ha- So not a circle track around a football field, the whole track, the path that we have to
yeah,
go.
I'd have to check in with Lisa
We
to
don't
know
have a track in
exactly.
Morgan's, do we?
No,
Okay.
We don't
So
have an
this is
indoor
more about
track.
path.
this is the track around Morgan's, but I'd have to ask Lisa for the details because she submitted that one.
Right, okay.
And what year was that put in? That was for
23.
'23.
I saw track, and I'm thinking the track at Destin Elementary School, which would lead to why are we going to
Yeah, Lisa's out on vacation this week, otherwise we could ask her.
It's all good. Ryan's back there. But
When you're back. Hey, Ryan, do you happen to know?
I think the answer is it's the walking path around Morgan's, basically.
They just did that a couple of years ago. The rubberized track is at the school.
So what's 50,000 for a rubberized track?
I would assume that is for the school, but I'd have to check and let you know.
Isn't it already rubberized? But it's $50,000. Shouldn't we kind of find out? I mean, it's on the budget, right, for fiscal year '23, which is what we're talking about. I would love to find out more about that. I mean, just kind of wondering.
I haven't seen the documents on this, but I was involved the last 2 times before that with that particular project. It was an agreement that we made with the school district that we would bring that up to speed for the community itself and for the use of the elementary school. So, I mean, it's legit. I think maybe the first go-around, the Morgan family helped to raise the money to do it, I think, if I remember correctly.
What's legit? What's legit?
It's legit that the city is taking care of renovating that track. So what happens is, after time, moisture gets in between the old cinder, which is underneath there, and the rubberized, and it starts to lift. And at a certain point, you can patch sometimes, but usually it's a replacement on that stuff.
Okay.
Lance, is that property, is that Dustin Water Users property that we lease?
Over there, it's a school, and we've got the school property, and we have an interlocal with the school.
All of that property over there? Fields and
Where
all?
our sports fields are, yes, that's all school property.
Okay, thank you.
So, that'd be great. I'm just curious where it came from. What's the sluice gate in PEB? Sluice gate?
Sluice gate is at the harbor pump. It allows us to close off the intake pipe and then pump out the wet well so we can get down in there without scuba gear. It's a shut-off valve for keeping the Gulf out of that wet well.
It's pricey. Perfect. The wayfinding and apps for the 2 town center CRAs, Harbor and Town Center CRA.
So those would be coming out of the CRA funds, not out of R&R general fund
Sorry,
money.
yeah, I'm jumping off of R&R.
That's okay.
But I guess better the question is, what is the wayfinding and the app?
Oh,
for
this is
$500,000?
Lance's, Lewis's baby, right?
Is it
The
still part
wayfinding?
of the budget, right? I'm just curious what the Town Center CRA app and wayfinding is.
Yeah, so part of what we're implementing with the wayfinding is people can download the app to find their way around those areas in the CRA town center and the harbor CRA.
So do we need a $100,000 wayfinding app and signs for the Town Center CRA?
No, it is just not for the app and for the signs that are going to be part and parcel of the whole program.
I'm sorry. Say that again?
I said it is beyond just the app. It includes all the signs that will be also erected around these two CRA areas
And so the town center CRA,
and the harbor CRA.
it's $100,000 to the town
For
center
each.
CRA.
For each, right,
It's a lot of money for
it's for each.
wayfinding around
Yeah.
Main Street.
Yeah, so we have to get the signs
Like,
designed.
where do you get $100,000? Like, how does that budget item come from?
Well,
If we're talking about putting shells in different buckets, I mean, that's a lot of money.
yeah, we estimated the cost of implementation for each of those programs in those two CRAs.
Okay. I would love to
What-
know more about those programs, if we could.
I was just.
One of the
remind
things-
council that
Sorry.
the town center CRA does include Highway 98 from Beach Drive all the way to Airport. So,
Okay. On 98 too.
and we've talked for years about getting the wayfinding
Signage.
signs up on the stop bar, or the lights, the stoplights, along Highway 90. So
Thank
it would include lights like, or signs like that, and
98.
they're expensive.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then,
Just add one more thing.
yes, please.
We have approached the TDC because they're also interested in participating, so potentially there'll be help there.
Okay. And then the trail, the town center easement trail, that I know it's a 4 or 5 year program. We're allocating $270K to it this year.
Yeah, so we attained a grant, and it's a matching grant, but they're
Okay.
giving us $270,000 towards the engineering and design.
Okay.
Our initial estimates from the city engineer who left about a year ago, we're estimating that would be about a $13 million project, all from end to end. So
Right.
yeah, that'll be a good $500,000 at least of engineering and
So-
design,
so-
and then right-of-way purchase.
So when we see the 270 is, because I know we put grants on our budget, so is that the 270 that's being a grant that's going on that item?
Yeah, so you'll see two lines for that one. One is 270 is the grant that we've been awarded, and the matching amount is 270,000 of town center CRA funds, which has to be spent within the town center CRA.
Okay, so then that's 270 of the town center CRA funds to study it this year?
For the engineering design,
Design.
and then, yeah, figuring out which pieces we need to, we might need to purchase
And
some
is
right
the
away.
easement trail one of the council objectives? I forget.
It's been on the town center's CRA's master plan for a number of years.
The master plan, town center. master
Yeah, so each of the, so the community redevelopment area, the CRA, is split into two districts.
Correct.
We've got the town center and the harbor,
Right.
and each of them have a master plan that they wrote when they became districts.
So just to humor me, so we're studying, we're coming up with designs for 270K, next year 50K, next year potentially $1 million. I imagine that's potentially for more designing and engineering or whatever.
No, so first we have the engineering design, and then we can take it out, look for some, we can take that design out to grantors to get more grant funding, and then by then, the CRA will have enough cash saved up for pay-go construction, so then the future years of money that you see is for actual construction.
Gotcha. For a project that may or may not even happen, but it's a lot of money.
It's in the plan, so
Right. On an easement
hope it
with
should happen.
power and FPL and everything else, so, okay. I know, I love to think big. Last question and I'll be done. Thank you for everybody's patience. If you could explain to me, if we, after we adopt a budget, 2 months from now, we get presented with like a opportunity of a lifetime, and we need like $11 million, and we had to make a decision to, within 30 days or 60 days to buy something, what would we do?
so then.
If we all wanted to do it,
Yeah,
basically, or
so-
enough of us.
You would have two options. One, you could take from the budget that we've adopted, And you could transfer, you could say, we're not going to do these projects this
Right.
year. Instead, we're going to transfer all that money into this once-in-a-lifetime special opportunity. And/or you could do a budget amendment and
Sure.
take from the fund balance, because you've got that unassigned fund balance to do that
Okay.
once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Thank you. And sorry, the last one, the CM001 beach that you updated, how does that affect us if we haven't signed the interlocal agreement yet?
So
What-
I'm
What
just,
happens if we, you know?
Yeah,
'Cause I don't want to predict the future, but
right.
does this tie us to anything?
No, so this is, again, it's just a budget that we're required to adopt. It's easier to adopt a budget looking forward into what we're pretty certain is going to happen into the future
Sure.
than to come back and do a budget
Amendment.
amendment. The interlocal agreement, I was hoping was going to come to council this past
Right.
Monday, but it didn't quite, wasn't quite ready yet, so it'll come to your next meeting. And then there are a lot of unknowns, because part of that interlocal agreement is towards purchasing the third parcel at Crystal Beach, which we're kind of hopeful will happen before September 30th, but I don't know. So I've put it into the 2023 budget just in case. If we're able to accomplish it, then it comes out, because we're accomplishing it in 2022. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's an art.
Right. But again, we're putting things into our budget for prioritization that are lower on a list for the council's objectives than some of the others I see.
I think beach
It's-
acquisition is
It's
pretty.
there, but it's.
Yeah, it's
even-
pretty high, and this is using tourist
Right,
dollars, not
right.
so
I'm
much
just trying to
citizen dollars
remind
for
and
this.
highlight that there's things that, again, that aren't on this budget that doesn't align, in my opinion.
You're always going to have
I'm
that.
good, though.
You're always going to have that.
Oh, I know, I'm just wanting to make
That-
sure
that's
that
always the
it's
case.
discussed and that we're being open
Sure.
about it and that we're just communicating
Yep.
about it, so.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm done, thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Alright,
Thank
done.
you, Crystal.
So
And I-
let's
and
let's
I-
get
Thank you,
back to
Kevin.
the
Go ahead,
slide.
Jim. You got the
Thanks. The annexation study, we talked about growing the pie, okay? And we talked about, well, we may have an $11 million project, or we may have this project, and I'm with you, you know? We want to build a marina, we want to build a multi-purpose thing, we want to buy more beach, we want to buy more bay, and I keep adding all these numbers up, and now it goes from 3 million to 9 million, or 4 million to 9 million. One of the things is growing the pie. And if you think that a half a cent sales tax from Walmart wouldn't grow the dang pie, I'll spend $10,000 every month if it gets us some of that pie. I'll just be honest with you. Because you don't get all these other things that we listed on our priorities, paying our staff, you know, doing a marina, doing a multi-purpose center, unless you get some revenue. And we can get grants. We've been doing a good job getting grants, but we got to grow this dadgum pie. So I'm all for the annexation study. The hurricane response, I thought we had money set aside where we had enough money to pay our staff for 6 months. We had enough to pay for our operations for 6 months. Are you telling me we don't have $100,000 in there for hurricane cleanup?
No, that's in the, it's in the committed reserve balance. It's not budgeted to spend, it's cash set aside in an unbudgeted but committed reserve.
But it's there.
But I'd have to call, if I don't have hurricane response money budgeted, then I need to call a council meeting to get Lance his approval
I don't
to.
think you do. In a state of an emergency, I think that guy,
It would be unbudgeted, though. It would be an unbudgeted and unbudgeted, what's going to be our new cap for unbudgeted? $25,000?
Yeah, no.
Which,
Whatever it is, it'll
Yeah.
be more than it is
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But again, this wouldn't be spent unless a hurricane happened and we
even if it were
actually needed
budgeted, you
it.
couldn't spend that.
Correct, even if it was budgeted.
So you'd have to call us together, so
No. If it's budgeted and the city manager needs it for emergency response, then he just has to bring it to the next council meeting for ratification after the fact.
again, you would have to get us together.
But if it's not budgeted, then I also have to do a budget amendment by ordinance.
Okay. Which means you have to bring it to us. It's still got to come to us. This is what I'm trying to figure out. What's the difference? It's going to have to come to us either way. So.
It's just one, we don't have to do the ordinance if it's already budgeted.
Okay.
We
Well,
get your council approval.
I tell you what, draft that ordinance, and then that way, seriously, draft it 22-XX, and then you can just drop it like that, and you've already got it. It's the same as doing a budget. I'm just trying to say, that doesn't need to be in the budget, because it's already in the, not the reserves, the uncommitted, or
It's-
committed,
it-
I'm sorry.
It's in a committed reserve.
Committed reserve. So it doesn't need to be in the budget, just draft an ordinance.
If you draft the ordinance, we would just state that you would use uncommitted reserves
Yeah.
at the discretion of the city manager up to X amount of dollars.
For a hurricane response.
But we'd
that
have
work for
to,
you,
we'd
Lance?
have to look at the charter and at Florida
Yeah.
statute in order
Okay.
to,
I was going to say, I mean, I think something like that is possible, but
Yeah.
I still think that you're talking about amending the budget, which you can't do before the budget's amended. So it's going to take two prospective
No,
readings.
not,
after.
if you take it out of the committed reserves, that's where you're taking it.
My understanding is.
Yeah.
but even our committed, like, for example, our Okaloosa half-penny money is another example of a committed set of funds.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't spend, we can only spend it if it's budgeted. So I
Right.
can't just dip into the reserve to dip into the
No, I
reserve.
understand that.
Right. I'd still have to do a budget amendment by ordinance.
But that's because those can only be used for specific purposes. The committed reserve can be used for whatever it's committed for, right? Which includes storms.
Only if it's budgeted, only if it's in the adopted budget.
Yeah,
Right, we're adopting a budget.
yeah, yeah.
Of course, we have been through a number of hurricanes here in
Yeah.
the last 45 years, and we have council meetings right after the wind stops.
Right after the, yes.
Say though, Jim's right, that Lance can spend above his purchasing power if the mayor issues a state of emergency.
Emergency. Thank
And
you.
then often we'll bring that back for ratification to council,
Yes.
which is what we've done in the past. Yeah.
Yes. You can call out the militia. Yeah, okay.
And the posse.
And the posse, don't call them out into Crystal Beach, though, okay. The network, I understand, okay, it comes from the tech fund. How come there's no tech fund for software, asset management, civic clerk?
Because the tech fund is related to our Compass and EnerGov system, which is related to the community development and the building permitting processes. It's not related to other general government functions. So the asset management system is 75% of just general government assets, not things that are related to building permitting and
And who determines what the tech fund can and cannot be used for?
it was written up in it's written up in a motion in our schedule. Anyway, I have the rules behind the tech fund. I can dig them out for you if you
Yeah,
need.
because I mean, if you're just saying it's for hardware, okay, well, I kind of understand that, but if you're saying, well, it's for hardware and some softwares, but not the softwares that these people use or those people use,
No,
then it didn't
Right,
quite
it's not
make
for
sense to
general
me.
fund software and hardware. It's for, the tech fund was for the community development, planning, inspecting, all of those departments. Lance, do you have more of the background on the tech fund? I guess that was Webb's thing.
That's
wasn't
probably
it?
Webb's thing.
Yeah, but that's right. I mean, it was what we used to purchase Compass and
Yeah. Now, you tell Webb I'll ask that question when we go one-on-one, okay? The other things, the city marina, okay, pickleball courts, Clement Taylor, got it, renewal and replacement, I understand that. When is that thing coming back to us?
Which one coming back to us?
Renewal and replacement study?
Yeah, I talked to them Monday. They're finalizing the City Hall assessment, and we're going to review that and make sure it checks all the boxes, and then they'll go ahead and finish it out. Shouldn't be, but a couple more weeks.
Okay.
So
And
that'll,
then-
that'll be for all of the facilities,
That'll be
right?
for all 12 facilities, 12 or 13 facilities.
And then, to Kevin's point, we are the ones that said the multi-use thing, take it off, because we had a long, not a real long discussion, but a discussion on if we don't know where, what are we going to spend money for? Because some of us thought It was going to be down where the fishing museum and the community center and all that stuff is. And then some people said, well, it might be in the old Kmart lot when Publix comes in and we're going to talk to them. And so let's not spend, so, you know, and I won't go through the 100 questions on the individual expenditures because I read that as a wish list, you know? Some of that stuff I'm leery of, but when we get to where we can vote, you know, the wayfinding, this is all the wayfinding I need. I'll be honest, and, you know, people use this or they use the one in their car because you see them driving around looking at where they're going to turn. 15 years ago, yeah, we're going to brand the harbor, we're going to brand, you know, we're going to have these lighted signs and all this was really good, but that's not how people think these days. If you want, you know, our technology expert here probably could tell you, you could get rid of about half of that stuff.
The big sign on the parking lot increased the revenue gigantically over there.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, big sign.
But we gotta, if you put it here, yeah. Yeah, the illegal big sign, okay. So yeah, that's how we got on the and it is a higher priority, but until we know where, I don't want to spend money going, well.
Isn't that part of the researching part of it though?
No, we should have an idea of where, okay? Seriously, then the what, and then the how, when, you know, okay. That's all I have, thanks.
Where are you gonna put a city marina?
In the harbor?
Okay, I got you. Well, we'll put the event center in the city somewhere.
In the harbor.
But no, I think this is the time and the place to have this discussion, because I would like to, I need to get draft numbers out to the directors so they can work on their pieces in the budget book this coming week, and prepare for your individual meetings that should take place at the end of next week. So I think this is the perfect place and time to have the discussion and for you to choose. So does the group want me to remove hurricane response off of this list and not budget
I
it?
don't want you to, because I think there's a reason it's on there. And it sounds like staff and you and others think it's better to have it on there
Yeah,
for some type of emergency reason.
And
that
one thing you
it's
gotta
above my
remember
pay
too is
grade.
most of that gets reimbursed. That 100,000 is all about timeliness. And that's getting the crap off the road 8 hours after the wind quits blowing, that kind of stuff. And, you know, of course, we have to wait how long to get reimbursed sometimes, Lance? You know, years, you know?
Years.
But at least it gets the ball rolling. I don't know. I support that money because we know we're gonna get it.
Yeah,
sooner or later.
I'm not
And
gonna
if
fight
it's-
over that.
If
I
we
think-
don't spend it 2022, it might be 2023 or 2024. We've been fortunate.
I'm not going to fight, because you know who's going to reimburse us? We're going to reimburse us out of the committed reserves first, till we get reimbursed from FEMA. And so we're playing a little budget game here that we quite honestly don't have to play, but I'm not fighting over $100,000. I would say the city marina, you know, you can put that in council contingency or whatever. If we decide at some later date, we figure out where in the harbor we want to do this, then we could come back and we could do that study.
Yeah, I'd recommend putting it out a year, putting
Yeah.
it out to 2024, and then next year you look at it again, decide if you want to do it in 2024, or if you want me to push it out to 2025 and just keep it rolling, but keep it in that
I'd rather keep it this
placeholding.
year, but put in a contingency before we lose it for the next year, because you never know what's gonna come this year.
My concern when we put money in council contingency is then you spend it on other things, instead of keeping it around on the capital budget, earmarking a place for the
Oh,
future.
ye of little faith.
You don't trust us? All I heard right there was you don't trust us.
That's right.
10 years
That's why I
working with
said
state and
that.
local governments in Florida.
One thing that needs to stay in there, of course, this is a political football, is those pickleball courts. We need to get them pickleball courts built. Them folks have been coming for a long time wanting them pickleball courts.
Yeah, they're after my blood now. I stuck
Yeah.
my head out there.
On the Clement Taylor Park,
Those of you running for office, that's gonna be
that's got to
important.
stay. I mean, is there a time on the Restore Act grant? Is it,
Yeah, so
FY '23?
the Restore Act grant was given from Treasury to Okaloosa County.
Yeah.
Okaloosa County, we're the sub-grantee.
Yeah.
And the clock starts ticking the minute they give us the notice to proceed and allow us to proceed. And I don't have the agreement in front of me, so
Oh,
I
and
don't
that,
remember.
we don't get that till we finish
No,
the
wait,
other
wait,
one? Well,
correct.
that may be 2 years
We're-
from now.
Right, no, we're hoping to complete the Restore program with
Yeah.
the
Crystal?
park on the,
Okay.
go ahead, Jeffrey.
I can add a little bit of information on that. Right now, the county does not have an agreement from Treasury on that. So it's been obligated and budgeted,
Treasury, okay.
but they don't have a grant agreement, so they can't give us one until they get one.
Okay.
So then is the truth, not the truth, but it's not about finishing the park on the harbor if the county doesn't even have an agreement.
It
Is
was
the county
also-
not getting an agreement
my
because we're not
understand-
finishing the
no, they-
harbor?
they
Or is
have-
Treasury not giving them the
They've been
agreement?
given the award, they don't have the notice to proceed, so they can't give us the notice to proceed either. And the information they've been giving us all year is wait until the first park is completed, and then we can go back to Treasury.
They don't want us to wait for parks to be completed to buy more beaches and buy more parks.
No, it's not related.
But we have a
It's
Clement Taylor
di-
Park that's like
different grant.
deteriorating on a daily basis.
Different grant,
You know?
different funding sources.
I know, but it's just their reasoning. They don't want to allow us to start. They're going to put stipulations on it.
Yeah, wasn't
You
that
just
money
say we
It's
can't
allocated?
start?
Wasn't that
different.
money allocated for Clement Taylor Park before we ever started the?
Yeah, yes, that's true. They were notified of the award several years ago.
Even more than that, I was on the school board committee that participated in the award process, and that's going on 3 years now.
So why were they awarded that, and now all of a sudden it's contingency on the Harbor Park being complete before we could go back and?
Yeah, the grants manager at the county, she said she won't even consider going back to Treasury to request the notice to proceed until we successfully complete this first Restore Act granted park.
Even though that's two different grants.
It's the same funding source.
Seeing how we're on that subject, Lance, what's an ETA on that?
On the Clement Taylor Park renovation project?
No,
On which one?
the other one that's holding that up.
Oh.
The other project.
Well, it's a good question. I think if they would get to it, we're probably 3 to 4 weeks away from completion, but we got to get them to get to it. They walked off the site because we were disputing some of the payments. We were not disputing anything that they had accomplished up to our standards. We were disputing some of the other items, and we have now since worked that out between us the way we're supposed to, the way the process says we're supposed to do it, and we're getting them paid. And I received an email from the company this morning, and I believe they're preparing to remobilize. I'm hoping tomorrow, because I mean, I really have been told that 3 to 4 weeks, if they would get on the job site, we could get this thing
Okay,
done.
just that's just an FYI for everyone. Maybe we can have the Keebler elves show up at night and finish that project when they're not around. But anyways, so that's where we're at with that, right?
Yeah, and then on the renewal replacement, all those air conditioners, do we have a contract with some air conditioning company or companies? And because $7,000, I mean, what's the size of these air conditioning units? They're all 7,000, 7,000, 7,000. So I'm wondering if they're all, 3.5 ton, or what are they?
They're all 3 to 5 ton units. This building does have a 15-ton unit, and it's kind of an exception.
Okay. Yeah, because some of that, painting walls, okay. That seems, but I'm a little bit like Kevin. Not all that might need to be required this year, but we would like to get this done. Until I see the study and says, it's in the window, okay, then, but now this is more of a wish list on the R&R fund as opposed to.
If I could add one other thing, Mr. Bagby, concerning the HVAC units. Several, and unfortunately, a a great, it's not the majority, but there's a considerable number of units that we have that use R22 Freon, which is no longer commercially available for any reasonable price. So what we would love to do is, as soon as this study's completed, and maybe when we get into the FY24 process, is try to be proactive and not run our systems to failure before we replace them.
Right.
You know, replace it while it's still got a little bit of life left in it. So Lance doesn't have to sweat in his office for 3 weeks while we waited on a compressor.
And again, I just kind of, we're budgeting for it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're going to actually spend the money.
Right, I got it.
Crystal has a fiduciary duty to this council to make sure that we budget
Yeah.
for all these things. And we just have to always remind ourselves, we don't always have to, I mean, how many times have we gone over budget? Not very many times since, I don't think we've ever gone over our annual budget since I've been on the council. So,
That would be
What?
unlawful.
well, I know that, but,
That's why we don't do it.
well, you could always move money around, right? To
Yes.
prevent that from happening,
Yeah.
but we haven't had to move money around. So,
Right.
so this council and our finance team's done a really good job of staying under budget ever since I've been mayor, so.
Well, because you never hire 100% of the people.
Probably not gonna happen in '23 either. Go ahead, Rodney.
Is it true that, I'm almost certain that we used to set aside $40,000 a year to maintain all the equipment and the facilities? Where'd I get that number from?
No, that's, yeah, if you're going by that old business rule of thumb, like trying to, like depreciation, for example, is a nice proxy for maybe what you should be reinvesting back into your facilities to keep them up. It's a low proxy, but it's a proxy. The city, our depreciation is about, it's about $3.5 million a year. This city, I've noticed the trend and how we've reinvested in maintaining our facilities. It really dropped off between 2009 to 2016, and then it never really quite crept back up. So we're just dealing with that right now. But the best case scenario is to take this data. That's why we hired Matrix to come in, review all of our facilities, and for them to recommend a schedule. And also to get this asset software will help us also. So every time our maintenance guys go around, each year they should do a little assessment on each of the items. They'll say, well, Matrix said that we should probably need to replace that roof in 2025. And as we approach 2025, they'll reinspect it and say, no, I think we can get another 3 years out of it, and they'll update that. So that's the thought process behind the software. But then it's also just, in your general facilities management, just planning for when those big expenditures come in the future. But for a city of our size, with all the infrastructure and facilities we have, it's got to be a lot more than $40,000 a year. So, yeah, maybe repairs and little maintenance, like regular preventative maintenance. And
Rodney?
even that, I think lately has been estimated at
Crystal, let me
closer
help you on
to,
that, because I know the history on what he's talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
And yes, the answer is yes. The R&R fund was in the $40,000 range for multiple years since I've been here, so.
renewal and replacement. Yeah, but we do budget annually just as an operating cost, not
So I'm
not down here
going
in capital.
totally nuts. It was $40,000. But, okay, that's what, yeah, I did see that. So I guess, and with that said, I mean, what we used to be presented with, I guess, 3 years ago in the past, this is light years ahead of where we were then. We didn't get to see all this. We weren't given this stuff. I guess we were hiding things. I don't know what we were doing, but anyway, this is amazing, and I guess it's a little overwhelming for me when I get to seeing all these numbers. They've been there, and now we're breaking it all down, and we're at $40,000 to what, over $1 million, almost $2 million. So it's just huge. It's a lot more than what we're used to looking at, or I am.
If we're good here, then I'll continue on. So was there anything from this list that you would like me to push forward into the future? Like maybe the marina feasibility study or? So this was just a little overview. We have some of our major revenues going down one side, and along the top, I have labels for some of the biggest projects that we have going on, which are the beach purchasing, completing the crosstown connector, undergrounding, the overhead utilities, stormwater, and then the Public Works and Safety Committee, we committed some of the Okaloosa Halfpenny money out to them. So this just is keeping in mind the big picture of how we're going to accomplish some of these projects that, you know, could take a long time to accomplish. Just so you have that in mind, and we'll continue to add the really large projects, and I'll continue to add when we get new funding sources on here. So here we are at the more of the details of the 5-year capital budget. We talked in detail about the ones that are being funded from the general fund monies, but most of the 5-year capital budget is being funded from our capital funds. So here's just a synopsis of how we're going to spend the money. You can see here, these are the council of citizen-directed projects, the $45 million that we're looking at for next year. Renewal and replacement fund is this little red piece right here. And let's see, the purple one is just other capital projects. That's a nice long list. Down below you have the funding sources. So the big purple one, that's all grant funding. Then we're spending a lot of impact fees that we've saved up. And then we have some special revenue funds that we've set aside for accomplishing some of these capital projects. So here you see the general fund money is just a little slice. It's better to spend those capital project monies for your capital projects. Here we have the detailed list of that category called council-directed projects. This is looking at the 5-year plan, the crosstown connectors at the top. Then we have beach acquisition that's, depending on if we adopt this interlocal agreement, might be happening in the next 3 to 6 months. Undergrounding, I just put in some of the revenues that are flowing in and the phases for the underground project going out into the future. Thinking that maybe in the next 15 to 18 months we might be able to get the some construction off the ground for undergrounding. I think as a group you need to discuss more about the timing of the phases and where you want them, and maybe you only want to complete 3 phases. Maybe we only want to do West Destin where the sidewalks are smaller and we don't want those huge storm-hardened poles, whereas as you go farther east Destin, the sidewalks are larger and those poles might not be so obtrusive. Anyway, that's something for you guys to discuss, right?
Crystal, that discussion though, we're good for 23, but you're talking about the next year, the next year, and the next year, right?
Yeah, I'm just putting money in here in case you guys decide you want to pursue a construction agreement with somebody to get things rolling. Then we'd encumber it with a contract, but all of that would have to come to you. And right. Yes, so this was the short list of just the council, the top priorities by council. So let's go on to the next. The next slide. This just shows how we are going to, the funding sources for 2023 for those council-directed projects. So you can see just in a different format. Here we have a lot of grant funding. So here we show about $32 million in grants, and we show the list of those. Right, we're getting to that. It's down under other capital projects. Renewal and replacement fund, we talked about, different funding sources and their, is that where it is? Here we go. Yes, actually. So on the unfunded and underfunded, it's the top of the line, CRT 17, Town Centers, CRA easement, trail and linear park. So we're still missing at least $5.3 million to really get that one rolling. Correct. For '23, we're using Town Center CRA money that they have saved up, and we're also using the grant funding to accomplish the design part. And then the unfunded part is here for the construction. I just put that out into the future. Looking forward to seeing that design and getting a real number to plug in there.
Crystal, these CRA funds, they have already come through the CRA advisory panel as budget recommendations?
That's correct.
Good.
And I have them make a motion to commit the funds and to make sure that it's in their master plan. So we're rewriting the master plans for the two CRAs this summer. So this is where we end this session. So we've got the unfunded, underfunded. Oh, look at me, pressing the wrong number. So here we are, just back at the kind of the beginning, where you can see the net amount before we invest in capital improvement projects, and what our fund balance looks like before we invest general fund dollars into the capital improvement projects. And I'd really like some, just like I mentioned, I am going to be routing budget numbers around to the directors tomorrow. I was waiting for tonight to hear back from you all, but especially about the personnel costs and budgeting for that. So as you saw, right now I have 8.5% in there as the cost of living increase, but if I could get a little group consensus on what you feel most comfortable with. I know Bagby wants to see some more details, but
Yeah, I think Jim and Mr. Destin, you were both thinking along that 4.5%, 5% instead of the 8.2. Is that kind of where you guys were going?
That figure may be adequate or appropriate, but in just general, I would say that we need to be not quite so ambitious about where we're going. And,
Does that help?
Crystal noted that starting around 2009, we were not doing a very good job on our maintaining and doing all that, and there was a reason for that. After 2008, our ad valorem taxes went down 40% or more, and so we could delay that stuff or we could lay off people, and we chose to delay it. And, I don't want to be a doomsday guy, but it looks to me like we've got another spell of that coming.
I don't
Unless
think.
a miracle comes.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that are in that industry, and unlike the housing collapse, that social experiment that failed throughout the country, we are going to face a recession. You and I have been through two of them just here in this town.
Yeah.
And we survived those fairly robustly. I think this time, what we're going to see a little bit different is there may be a reduction in property values, but nothing like I think we've experienced in the past because of the two dynamics that have taken place. One is people want to live here now. They don't want to live in other places. And they've also learned that they can live where they want to and still work. And most of the people that are in the industry, there's going to be a little bit of a drawback, but I don't think at the levels that we've ever we've seen during the 2006, 2007, 2008. That was a failure of our government as a whole. In the Jimmy Carter era, when I think you weren't even in college yet, 82 through 80, well, really 90. Were you in college then? I can't remember. I thought you were still on the boat. I don't think you got. That's right. Right. But I think, we survived those recessionary periods fairly well here in Destin. And most of everybody feels like our property values, because of those two things that have happened since the pandemic, I don't think we're going to see a 40% drop off our property values like we experienced in 2007 and 8. Sure.
Well, we're building now. And I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I would be interested. What we're seeing is people that were doing 7-night stays previously are now doing 6-night or 5-night stays, or 3, because they're spending their money to get here and get home, as opposed to spending it on night rates. The other thing, Walton TDC dropped in May 3%. Over May of last year.
Yeah, that's unfair comparison.
No.
It really is.
No, May of last year, yeah, we were slammed, but we were still busy this year. But it's the bed tax revenue, so all the bed tax collectors, their revenue, if you think about that, dropped about 3%. So it's not, I agree with you, it's not going to drop off the cliff, but you're going to see, because a lot of our home value are second, investment owners who, okay, how much am I going to make in rental income? Well, then that's how much I can afford on a note, so that's how much property I can afford. And so you're seeing them getting, enjoyed the conversation with Johnny, because it just went over 2,800 on Monday night. It was over 3,000 units on the market, residential units on the market today. And I'm like, it just keeps growing, and which does not help the price when you have that much supply.
Okay. Crystal, what's the goal for the individual meetings for the next couple of weeks?
Okay, so next up, we have individual budget briefings, July 27th to 29th. Please call City Hall and schedule to come in and meet with me, and I just want to make sure we have a good understanding amongst each other, and I'd like you to have, any last questions that you want to discuss with your fellow council members prepared for that August 1st meeting.
And then Jim mentioned something that I talked about, wish list items. You mentioned at the end of it, you said, we're not voting tonight, I get it. So theoretically, you're potentially voting when the budget comes to us for adoption to potentially cross out some wish list items if you still don't feel comfortable with it at that meeting that night.
Yeah, so
Not the individual meetings.
right. So the individual meetings is where you get your comfort level of what's in all of these budgets that we're about to adopt. And you get prepared to adopt that tentative millage rate on August 1st, because I have to certify that to the property appraiser on August 4th. That's our last slide here. August 11th, depending on how these meetings go, and if the discussion points on August 1st, we have an optional budget workshop scheduled for August 11th. So if you have a lot more items that you want to cross off these lists, for me, it's better to accomplish this in a workshop venue, to have you guys make adjustments so that I can redo the numbers and bring back the final numbers to you. And then I have to publish in the budget document the tentative budget needs to be up on our website at least a minimum a week before the first public hearing. So it needs to be up on our website at the end of August.
Awesome. Well, I know we're wrapping up, but I want to thank you and all the other staff members that have been doing this. As Rodney said earlier, it's a lot, and it's more than what they used to have, and probably more than what Mr. Destin used to have, and more than what Mr. Bagby used to have, and that's all kudos to you, I believe, and staff members as well that do a lot of these things. So thank you for all y'all's hard work.
Thanks, yeah, it's a real team effort.
Any other comments?
One, you are a magician at fund balance and fund management, but that's not how we communicate with the public. That's not even how we communicate. That's not how we communicate with the staff. So if I ask somebody up here and I won't, what's Fund 111? I know what it is because it just got established and you know what it is, but how people think is departments. So what are we spending on code? What are we spending on public works? What are we spending on parks and rec? And so there's got to be some document that translates this into something we can communicate with. Hey, we're parks and recs we're resurfacing the track, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, and so that we can, it helps the communication process, and it helps us talk to the citizens in terms they understand. Because I guarantee you, if we don't understand what Fund 111 is, they're never going to understand it, because we've had weeks where we could pull this out. And so I would just ask that and it's different than the old. I still have some of my old budgets. I'm going to go back and try to find it because I don't remember the 40,000. I usually understood the budget pretty well. They had, all these pages, and I thought it was, God, that's just way too much information. But the thing it did do is say, we're going to buy trucks for Parks and Rec, or we're going to resurface this, or we're going to replace this. And that information is in here, but it's on a spreadsheet that you got. I was watching Kevin, and I was laughing because he keeps trying to make it bigger, trying to go, which is why I print it out, because I can highlight it, and I can, I can't make that, I don't have to keep making, yeah, okay, the young guys have spoken. But I would just ask that y'all think of how we communicate a lot of hard, great work to the community.
Well, her slideshow does that in a certain amount of effect. Maybe we could have one geared not so much for budgetary concerns, but one for just public consumption that we can post on the Facebook or our social media pages, that just the average person just go on there and be able to easily scroll through. And I think that kind of presentation like that simplified, works.
The example I would give you, since the library is here, if I'm passionate about the library, I'm actually passionate about the library. What are y'all doing what's the city doing for the library? Okay, you have to go way back here, okay? Okay, I don't know that we're repainting this, or we're refurbishing a room, or we're putting on a new roof, or all of which may be in here. But I'm just a citizen that is passionate about the library. Are you funding the library for more or less? And if it's more, what are you doing for it? That's not in any of these slides, and that's some information that we were able to convey in the past, that even though I'm comfortable with this, 99.9% of the people in this city are not comfortable digging through this.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think that's a great idea to have one slide per department where we just say, we need to replace doors and windows at the community center. We need to, little Parks and Rec page. Exactly. Yeah. So these things are in the department summaries in the big fat budget book, but I think you're right. I think it should be a one-page slide for each one. I agree.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Before we go, stand by. We have an opportunity for the public to speak. And so, but before we do that, Crystal, are you done?
Yeah, thank you for your input.
All right, thank you, Crystal.
Good discussion tonight. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open up for public comment. Come on up, Marcia.
Okay, so you guys talked about resurfacing at the school. When they resurfaced, oh, yeah, the track. When they resurfaced the track over at Fort Walton Beach High School, they had a thing out there and people donated money and they showed how they raised money. I don't know that I've ever seen that done here in Destin. Maybe I'm wrong and it's just because I haven't driven by the place. Just a thought for a private-public partnership. Let's see, the wayfinding. Okay, so the wayfinding we've been working on for over a year at LPA Public Works, whichever one it is. I want to just say to you guys that I want to make sure that our wayfinding stays within the city of Destin and doesn't get taken over by TDC, because we are not Okaloosa County. We are our own brand and we are the city of Destin. So when you're talking about reducing those funds or just having that discussion, just remember that, because if we don't do it, they are going to do it. And then we're going to be Okaloosa County, not city of Destin. Bike walk path. There was no mention of the bike walk path that they're going to be doing between Destin and Fort Walton. Is there any discussions at the city about where that's going to land on our side and how that's going to come together? If not, maybe some consideration going forward, because there will probably need to be some money put for however that happens. And then the last thing is, y'all were talking about hurricane cleanup. You are having that discussion. I guess my biggest concern, and I don't know if I just missed it because I did get some bad news while I was in the audience, so I'm a little scattered and I apologize, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned this. I think back when Hurricane Michael came through, the reserves for some of those municipalities over there had fallen short, like dramatically short. So I just wanted to make sure that when we're having those discussions that we're not, and like I said, you may have said it and I've just missed it, but I just want to make sure that we as a city don't fall short if we end up with huge piles of cleanup like they did over there, and then I don't even know how they got paid for it. I'm sure they had to wait for FEMA or something, but anyways, they had to, however they did that. It was substantial, wasn't it? Okay, that was it. Thanks for giving me the time. Yeah, so our current policy is 3 months of operating expenses, so that's about $3.5 million for operating, and then a like amount, $3.5 million for capital repairs. So we have about $7 million set aside for that, plus we also keep in our reserves 1 year's worth of debt service. So that's why our reserve is maintained at about $10 million, and that's all with Raymond James in very, very conservative investments and easily accessible, readily liquid. One of those had only 1.6 million, didn't they? I mean, it was very low. Anyways, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I'm sorry if I sound scattered more than normal, but thanks, bye.
All right, thank you. So I don't think anybody else is here, so meeting adjourned.